Hello, dear virtual participants, students, and my friends. Today I am going to deal with the unit Introduction to Literary Criticism. It is prescribed for TYBA special class year. Literary criticism. Literary criticism is concerned with the analysis, interpretation, evaluation of particular literary text and its authors here. Literary criticism points out the merits and demerits of literature here. Generally, generally, there is a slight distinction between textual criticism and literary criticism. According to Fredson Bauer, bibliography and textual criticism trace the history of a text, and literary criticism analysis, evaluates, and judges this literary text here. So it is clear that literary criticism uh, points out the merits and demerits of piece of literature. So for your better understanding, I'm going to give a bit information about literature. What is literature? Everything that is in print is called as a literature. Similarly, literature is the expression of man's total experience. Whatever the experiences we get from life, whatever we get in our livelihood, that are expressed in words, and that is we call as a literature here. So it is clear that literature, everything that is in print is called as a literature here. When any reader or when any critic evaluates the piece of literature, then it may be novel, then it may be drama, then it may be short story, then it may be poem or any other sort of piece of literature. The critic or the reader points out the deeper insights of that particular piece of literature. And these insights are called as a literary criticism. Means when we look at any piece of literature, we look through some perception, we look through some insights, and these insights we can define it as a literary criticism. Thus, literary criticism evaluates such a kind of piece of literature here. You can get a variety of insights through the definition of literature. Here, as we are talking about the literary criticism, I want to make it clear why there is a need of literary criticism or why we should study the literary criticism here. For explaining this point, I will I will give you a traditional example for the understanding of this need of literary criticism. Whenever we read some book, or we watch movie, and if somebody asked us, why did you like this movie, or why did you like this book here? Means here the opposite person or here other person is expecting the implications or the impressions of that particular piece of literature or movie, we can say. But more time what happens, we fail to explain, we fail to express that thought in words here. Means we like that movie, we like that book, but we are failed to express our likeness and our dislikeness for that book or movie here. Say for example, we like Vijay Tendulkar's the book, the drama entitled The Silence the Court is in Session. But if asked why do you like this drama, we are failed to express our likeness or our dislikeness for of that book in words here. It happens because we have a lack of proper insight. To understand the literature, to realize the literature, to evaluate the literature, it is essential that we should have a proper insight. And that proper insight or that perception make us to understand that particular piece of literature. Literary criticism exactly works here. Literary criticism strengthens our insight. It makes us or helps us to understand that particular piece of literature. So it is very essential to it is very essential for understanding literary text here. Now I am going to turn to the next point. What is literary criticism? See, literary criticism is a journey of exploration into the literature. It enables us to realize the merits and demerits of that particular piece of literature. Similarly, literary criticism helps us to understand, to realize a literary text here. With the help of literary criticism, we can understand the literature, no doubt. Similarly, we can realize the pleasure of whole world in front of us. Literary criticism uh, teaches us how the whole world is full of joy, how the whole world is full of pleasure, and literary criticism teaches us to understand that pleasure of the whole world. Similarly, literary criticism helps us to experience the imagination described or depicted in that literature, and obviously intellectual stimulus here. So here literary criticism enables us to understand that particular piece of literature for taking the pleasure. Similarly, literary criticism quickens and refines our perspectiveness. This perspectiveness helps us to take the pleasure of that literary text here, and similarly we can understand and we can take the pleasure of that particular piece of literature. So it is very essential. It is essential to understand the literature here. Now I will turn to the definition of literary criticism here. I would like to quote two, three definitions here for your understanding. First definition: literary criticism is the study, discussion, evaluation, and interpretation of literature. Unquote. Again, I quote another definition. Literary criticism is the evaluation of literary works. This includes the classification by genre, analysis of structure, and judgment of value. Means in this definition, you can get the whole nature of literary criticism. Then I will quote the definition of Encyclopedia Britannica. Literary criticism asks what literature is, what it does, and what it is worth. In short, literary criticism is a method applied to literary text, any literary text, for exploring its value and its structure. Literary criticism offers us depth insight of that literature. It shares the important aspects of the particular piece of literature here. Today, the term aims at the study of works of literature with emphasis on their evaluation. Literary criticism criticizes the style of literary text. It talks about the tone of that literary text. It talks about the theme and themes of literature. It talks about the setting. It talks about the types of narration. It talks about the metaphor employed in the literary text. Especially, I would like to talk about the poem. When you discuss or when you evaluate the poem, literary criticism helps us to understand the figure of speech that are employed in the poem here. Literary criticism helps us to understand what is important about the text. When we try to realize the literary text, we about, or literary criticism helps us to understand about its structure. It helps us to understand about its context. Context, it may be social, psychological, economical, historical, etc. Then it talks about what is written in that particular text, and then how the text manipulates the reader. Means, in short, the act of literary criticism enhances our understanding and our enjoyment for that literary text here. See, literary criticism is an ever developing science, since the literary works and their significance in the whole world are always undergoing the changes. Some works of literary criticism influence and inspires many critics, and these critics debate throughout the course. Thus, these works become guidance, methods, and approaches and paradigms as a theories. And these theories are open to debate, rebuttal, accept, and revisions here. These theories give rise to the term critical theory. A term critical theory has a different senses. One, a, a developing theory of criticism as well, and a theory that is critical of its existence, because we know that it keeps on changing as the history as far as history goes here. So we can say that literary criticism enables us to understand and to enjoy the particular piece of literature. When we think of the literary text and when we think of the literary criticism, these are both separate books. Here, it is not so that one is important and other is not so much important. Both are much important. Both are of the same value here. But when we think of the literary criticism is book about book, because as we have discussed since the first point, that the literary criticism analyzes and points out the merits and the demerits of the literary text here. And literary text is an autonomous text here. And literary criticism discusses and evaluates of the autonomous text here. So it is said that literary criticism is book about book here. So there is one more false assumption about literary criticism. Not literary criticism, but critic we could say. It is said that many writers who fail as a creative writer, they become critic, and the critic who fails as a creative writer, successful creative writer, they become the critic. But it is a false assumption, because we can say that there are many more writers who are the masters of creative writers and who are the masters of criticism also. Say, for example, William Wordsworth, T.B. Shelley, Matthew Arnold, and T.S. Eliot. These creative writers are the masters in their creative writing, as well as masters in criticism also. So it is a false postulation we can say about the critic and the writer here. Thus, the criticism is the book, or criticism is the opinion of experts regarding the literary text here. So in short, or to conclude, I would say that literary criticism enables us to find out the pleasure and understanding of that literary text here. It enables us to find out the merits and demerits of the particular piece of literature. See, students, I have discussed in this video the introduction of literary criticism. In my next video, I will come up with some different term till that point, have a nice time. Thank you.